I haven't been to Kashmir in 14 years. Everything I know about the place comes from stories, comes from conversations, pictures, talking with family and friends through Skype, WhatsApp, Facebook, all that stuff. I still have some memories of my time there, though, from when I was 6 years old. And though they're a bit faded now, I still remember the valleys, the trees, the mountains, the rivers, the beauty of the entire place. Banff and Jasper don't even come close to everything I witnessed there with my own eyes. Time moves slower there. For the short time that I lived there, I grew accustomed to the quiet, peaceful life of tending to farm animals, climbing up a hill every morning to where the beautifully decorated bus would take me to school, coming home in the evenings to family, a big family, so many cousins and aunts and uncles. And as a Kashmiri living in the diaspora, all I know of Kashmir is in those memories. Sometimes I worry that I'm not Kashmiri enough and that if I go back, I don't know what to do, I won't fit in. But I think also being in the diaspora means that I've been entrusted with a responsibility, and that is to show the outside world the beauty of Kashmir, its struggles, and the hope and power of the land and its people. I am a link connecting two worlds. I am Kashmiri enough. I speak here today not to somehow just prove how Kashmiri I am, but to look beyond myself and share the stories and struggles of the resilient community that welcomes me with open arms no matter what. Our culture has weaved us together as one strong community, and we have supported each other through the immense challenges we have faced after the end of British colonial rule in the region. Kashmir is a land rich in resources, and its location is very strategic. As a result, the countries surrounding it began to fight for claim to it after Britain left. For decades, Kashmir has been caught in the midst of complex geopolitical and territorial disputes, which has led to widespread oppression and human rights violations in the region. This post-colonial war in Kashmir actually started a year before the Nebka in Palestine in 1948. Moving to more recent times, on August 5th, 2019, Kashmir's special status was revoked, which was Article 370 that got revoked, which removed the state's autonomy and ability to formulate laws for the state's permanent residents. Essentially, Kashmir lost what little independence it had. This revocation of Kashmir's special status was accompanied by a total communication blackout in Kashmir that lasted 5 months. Thousands of paramilitary troops were deployed in residential areas, curfews were imposed, and life in Kashmir grinded to a halt as all schools and businesses were shut down. This horrific shutdown, along with the decades of geopolitical conflict in Kashmir, has had generational impacts. I'm very fortunate to be from a part of Kashmir that has not experienced many of the horrors that I've heard about elsewhere: clashes, arrests, torture, killings. For 76 years, Kashmir has not felt peace. 1 in every 2 adults suffers from mental trauma in Kashmir. There is a drug addiction crisis, with nearly 2.5% of the entire Kashmiri population regularly using opioids. Dozens of people go missing every week, often for speaking up against the oppression they face. Journalists are targeted for speaking the truth, which has caused them to either leave the profession or take their talents outside of the region. I'm going to read to you a paraphrased excerpt from an article written by Nusrat Siddiq for NBC News. This article is about Munib Islam, a photojournalist living in Kashmir. As a photojournalist, Munib says, he has been beaten by demonstrators and security forces alike while covering protests in Kashmir, but he was not deterred from the work that he considered his calling. That changed in 2019. Since then, Islam, and others say journalists in Kashmir, have faced an atmosphere of intimidation that is driving many of them out of the profession and keeping others from freely reporting what's happening there to the world. You cannot think of doing journalism here. It appears all criminalized now, said Munib, who now runs a tailor shop in a village about 40 miles south of the Kashmir capital. Kashmir's people are being stripped of their dreams as we speak. This censorship and oppression of Kashmiri lives is what gives Kashmiris scattered throughout the diaspora a heavy responsibility. This is not the time for me to worry if I'm Kashmiri enough or if I know enough about my culture to fit in. My brothers and sisters are suffering, and I am in a place to speak and teach those who do not know. I am that link between both worlds, and so is every Kashmiri living across the world right now. Our strength lies in our roots and our collective desire for a stable, secure future where the talents of our people can shine. Next slide. For now, there is still much work to be done. Kashmiris are waiting for the UN to hold a plebiscite, as promised 76 years ago, that was supposed to determine the final status of the territory and put an end to the decades-long cycle of violence in the region. But it has not happened, and as it looks right now, it may never happen. It feels very very difficult to find hope in this situation because it feels like there's no solution to this war. But during these times of crisis, we find hope in our beautiful religion. Next slide. Specifically, I look to Surah Baqarah, Ayah 214. Do you think you will be admitted into paradise without being tested like those before you? They were afflicted with the suffering and adversity and were so violently shaken that even the messenger and the believers with him cried out, "When will Allah's help come?" Indeed, Allah's help is always near. The people of Kashmir demonstrate a strength of faith like no other. When they lose everything, they still call out to Allah and are grateful and are relying on Him for protection and strength. One of the many examples of this is Parvina Ahangar, whose son was kidnapped by police in the 90s and has not been seen since. Can you imagine how painful this must be to have your child disappear and not know how they are, what's happening to them, if they are even alive? That's how they destroy Kashmir. Take away the children, take away the future of the nation, the people's hope, tearing families apart. Despite this immense pain she goes through, and she has been going through, she later stepped up and founded the APDP, the Association of the Parents of Displaced Persons in Kashmir. Through this association, she was able to bring comfort and some semblance of hope to thousands of Kashmiri parents who have experienced the same thing she has. Every day, she travels to different villages across Kashmir to speak to families and advocate for their disappeared children. She has made it her life's purpose. And when she was interviewed and asked about the beginnings of the APDP, she talks about Allah and Islam, and she says, "I asked Allah to give me the courage to fight." As Muslims, we should look to Kashmir and see their strength of faith, which has gotten people like Parvina through unimaginable challenges and allowed them to bring hope to many others for a brighter future. May Allah grant us all steadfastness in our deen. Next slide. Before I end, I would like to share a quote from Thank you. Okay, before I end, I would like to share a quote from Ali Harfouch, who writes about the duties we have as Muslims towards Kashmir. Note that this does not just include Kashmiris, but all Muslims. He says, Kashmir poses a unique problem for the Muslim world. Not only is it on the edges of the international order dominated by the West, it is also on the margins of the Muslim world. Muslims have a multifold obligation towards Kashmir. The first obligation stems from the fact that its people are Muslim, and is augmented by the fact that they are oppressed. We are one ummah, and our strength, our connectivity, transcends borders. We need to be there for one another, and it starts with advocating for each other and speaking for those who have been silenced. Keep Kashmir in your dua, and join us in looking towards a future that is bright, beautiful, and full of hope. Thank you.